Please welcome Canada's most delightful export since maple syrup, Natasha, Negovanlis, and Annie Briggs. Got that Sunday feeling in my feet. Well, welcome, ladies. It feels like yesterday that we were in London all together talking about fake poo.
Yes, as one does.
We also just did that yesterday as well.
How are you?
My heart is bursting with joy. I love being here. Also, I can't believe how many people are in the audience. This is
I know, it's very
truly
exciting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This truly surpassed my expectations.
Me
I thought there'd be like 2 people in the front row, and that was it. So thank you.
Well, let's get to the goodies first. It's been about 10 months since we met Ruby and Claire.
Ooh, damn.
Yeah. So Clairevoyant season 2, we do know was greenlit to move on to the next phase, right? Of the independent production fund.
Yeah. So basically, the next phase of vying for Canadian grant money, which is great. We're really excited about still being in the running and throwing in some applications, doing our bestest.
It's like a yellow light.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than a green light. Yes.
So proceed with caution.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, proceed.
Stop
with
if it's safe to do so. I thought that's what the yellow light meant. Just stop if it's safe to.
I think we have different rules in America.
Oh.
It's like, just hurry.
Run. Run.
Okay, I like that one better. Yes, we're in the just hurry mode.
Just hurry. Because we really need some Clairvoyant season 2. We'll proceed with caution on this one. What if it happens? If we get season 2, what are some vague, cryptic ideas and plans you might have?
You sneak. We can't tell you that.
Not even vague and cryptic ones?
What do you think this is? Well, we got these characters. We're gonna explore them further, Dana. Vague enough for you?
I think one of the greatest challenges we're facing is that it is a very micro budget. Of course, Annie and I can be very grandiose in our ideas when we get together. So when we initially were going after a larger fund that we unfortunately didn't get, we had some very extreme plans to expand the universe and invite new characters and, hopefully hire more voices on the writing team. And unfortunately, when that fell through, we had to get crafty. But I know, without giving anything away, we just have ideas to explore the characters we already have further, as Annie said, and just, see things from the other characters' perspectives as well. Because we didn't get to know Nico and Xavier too much in season 1, and some of their things got cut out. So I'd love to see more of them as well. Yeah.
Who would be some of your dream guest stars?
Ooh.
Oh, what a question.
This is really bizarre, but I'd actually kind of love to see the comedian Chris Gethard in drag as a psychic, because he's from Jersey and he's really passionately from Jersey, and I just feel like he'd really fit into this seer sister world. So
I do have a connection to him if you need it.
He follows me on Twitter, so tag him, y'all. When you post this.
Hey, bud. Oh, right. Who would be my dream guest star to have on Clairvoyant? Well, for me, that's all tied into like what character they would be playing.
That's true.
But I don't know. Should we have say another or an additional villainess character? I'd love to have our Canadian homegirl Sandra Oh join the team. I think that'd be pretty sick. I just want to work with her mostly. So yeah.
Yeah, in Dreamy Dreamland, if we had $1 million.
Hey.
On a micro budget, though, Candy Palmer as well, who's a Canadian.
Yeah, Candy would be great. Candy would be great. We're both huge fans of hers, so she'd be fun.
And she's a big fan of Carmilla, so yeah.
If you could have clairvoyant abilities, would you want them?
Could I control them, or would they just be foisted upon me at, like, you know, inopportune moments?
As an actor, of course, you would want to know the more details.
Do I have control?
Yes, you have control over them.
Oh, well, yes, then I would like some clairvoyant abilities.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think both.
Do you know how often the weather changes in Canada?
Yeah.
Should I bring a light jacket?
Yes, it could save so much hassle.
Yeah. I feel like we go through 4 seasons in a single day sometimes. It would be handy. Also, Annie and I both have, you know, witchy dreams sometimes. We see things for each other in our dreams. So, yes, I would like those powers to expand.
Both your characters have their own strengths and weaknesses and insecurities, but there's a little bit of magic that happens when the two of them are together. They bring out the best and the worst in each other. What do you think draws these two very opposite people together?
When we were first in development, we circled around the concept of soulmates a lot in sort of finding the friendship between these two. And in doing research cross-culturally and how different cultures around the world treat the idea of soulmates was really fascinating. And one of the things I loved that kept coming up was just this idea that a soulmate, whether romantic or just platonic, really stems from the idea that you meet another soul that helps you find the path that you're supposed to be on, that sort of guides you towards that, if you can't, you know, do it yourself. And I thought that was so beautiful. And I think that these two characters definitely have that for each other.
Natasha, I'm going to quote a very wise woman now. There's something deliciously cathartic about embracing your darkness for a character. That was Natasha, by the way, that I quoted.
When did I say that?
Claire is far from dark, however. Is there something freeing about that as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I had such a fun time playing Claire, even though she is very tense and uptight sometimes. It was really freeing to not have to worry about looking cool for Claire or looking sexy or worrying about how my hair and makeup was when I was working. Like, it was just so fun to just play and be silly and be awkward and to, I think, celebrate the aspects of me that I often try to hide. Claire is quite different from me, but she is very much inspired by a younger version of me, and it was just so nice to embrace those qualities.
Annie, love the bangs. They're kind of swept aside, but they're gorgeous. You've been working for the past year with the prestigious CBC Actors Conservatory, and you recently released this really stunning short called Ruth, which you wrote and starred in. What inspired the story? And kind of give a little synopsis of the story for those who may not have seen it.
Sure, yeah, that was a fun project, a micro short I had the opportunity to make through the program. And I will just say, fun fact, my director for that piece was the very talented Simone Stock, who also directed Clairevoyant for us. So it was great to get to work with her again, and I was really keen on that because we'd had an established working relationship, and she connected with the material, so it was great. But yeah, it's a short called Ruth. It takes place in the 50s, and it very briefly follows a new mother's experience with what now would be understood as postpartum depression, but at the time was often misdiagnosed as, all manner of things, really, if you go back. So that's sort of what it is. And then I think, man, where that came from a A bunch of different areas, I think. One is just that, you know, more and more of my friends are having babies. And I think still in today's day and age, postpartum is something societally that we don't talk about a lot. And also our public relationship to motherhood or parenthood, I think is really, there's like a very sort of one-track idea we present about this, about how, you know, initial motherhood is beautiful and amazing all the time, and you're awash in these hormones and in love with your baby and all this stuff. But a lot of the experiences that I've heard from women and new dads too are just that's not the case, and they struggle very deeply. And I think that's just something I wanted to explore, because I think it's exhausting, and it at times is damaging to sort of continue to put out one perspective on an experience, you know?
You mentioned both kind of having these sort of clairvoyant-y dreams, but I was going to say, have you had moments that you would consider otherworldly, or that a time where you may have tapped into some sort of psychic part of yourselves?
Oh, that's, yeah. Yes, it's tricky how to answer this question. I will say that I think the times that, for, you know, yeah, lack of a better term, I am tapped into my psychic nature the most is when I'm busying myself the least, when I'm allowing sort of like space into my life. But if I'm like, you know, packing things in and keeping my brain and my life entirely occupied, there doesn't tend to be a lot of space for that otherworldly influences to come in. So that's what I noticed, I'd say, in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I think folks know that I do read tarot cards, and I've read tarot for almost 20 years now, actually. But for me, it's not about, you know, this mystical thing, and I don't feel as though I'm like conjuring things. It's more just a tool to reflect about your life and maybe reaffirm things you already knew but didn't want to admit to yourself. So it's, you know, each card represents different themes and different images, and I think as you pull them up, you can get different feelings. So I almost use it as like a psychotherapy tool more than something magical.
Clairvoyants often say that for them, it's almost like a movie playing in their head. And for me, the movie that always plays in my head is when I went to visit my prospective high school and I slipped on the ice and fell in front of all the upperclassmen.
Oh, no.
What movie is constantly playing in your head?
I dare not say.
Classic. I knew that. See, I am psychic. I knew that answer was coming. I knew that answer was coming. Like reoccurring dreams I have?
Yeah, like, is there something that, like, repeatedly just kind of like a movie in your mind that you notice comes into your life a lot?
Oh gosh, well, it's constantly shifting. I think as a human, I'm always growing and learning and changing, and my goals change, and I always try to set shorter term goals. So I think I certainly try to manifest those things by imagining them. A nice happy place I often go to is actually quite Carmilla. It is a beach in the south of France. But in terms of reoccurring dreams, I have a lot of actor dreams where, like, I'll go on stage and suddenly lose my voice, or there'll be a wardrobe malfunction, or I'll forget all my lines, or I'll be like repeating high school, and I'll be in math class and I'll be failing, but I'm like 35 in the dream, and you know, those old things.
Describe each other's auras.
Oh. Well, I sent Annie a picture of mine last week on my birthday.
Yes, right. A lot of purple.
Currently, yeah.
Auras. Like right now or in general? I would say, okay, so
what are
Natasha,
you seeing today?
Natasha, yeah, what is Natasha? A lot of the time, Natasha has a lot of energy in this area. Okay, she's a very mentally complex and stimulated individual. Okay, and
That's why she has to wear the hats.
right.
Yeah.
Keep it all under wraps
Keep it
in there. And then, as of late, actually, we were just talking about this yesterday. I was saying, I think most recently, your heart chakra has opened up, is what I've noticed as your friend. So we got some serious, and especially after this weekend, I would say we got some serious glow action coming off from the heart chakra.
That's so nice. Well, my Saturn's returning this July, so I'm chilling out.
I have no clue what that means. I just nod when she talks like that.
Yes.
Yes.
That's very nice. Thank you. Yes. I have a lot of violet and a lot of purple whenever I get photos taken.
What does purple mean? So, for people who don't know.
I'm a damn queen. No.
Yeah!
And it's a very royal color, okay? It's a very clairvoyant color. It's the highest chakra. And my heart was very white and open, so it's funny you sense that. I would say Annie has many colors, actually. And, I mean, I'm biased because I've seen a picture of your aura at a time before, and it had many colors in it. Like, I think there's a lot of green, which is very creative and nurturing and earthy. I think you have a lot of, a really bright heart. There's like a lot of pink and
I thought you
love.
were going to touch my boob for
I was
a
like,
minute.
there's going to be a GIF made of this moment, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Just, what's happening?
It's a lot of, for the gift makers out there. Yeah,
You're
there's
welcome.
like a very nice, warm heart. But sometimes I think, it's a little guarded. She's like a little mysterious. I feel like there's some like mysterious multicolors here. But also like a very open mind. Some open white mind here. Yes. I'm just, sorry, there's something in it. Sorry. You just cleanse that.
That was very impressive, both of you. Has there been something, you've talked about clairvoyant a few times now in different panels and interviews, but is there something about clairvoyant that you haven't really been able to address or you've wanted to talk about, something that you've found interesting amongst yourselves that just hasn't come up?
What a great question. I feel like we, since it's come out, have been fortunate enough to cover quite a few areas of it. I don't know.
We have. For me personally, I think, and we've said this before, even on other panels for other shows, I think people aren't aware of how little control actors and creators have sometimes. Like, we really did try to have as much creative control and input on this show as possible, but I think really truly that it takes a village. Now, there were a lot of people who were very instrumental in creating the show. Our producer Dylan Taylor was really hands-on in the writer's room, and he was always there with us, and although he wasn't physically writing the scripts, he was very helpful in terms of just guiding the story arcs. And Jason Packer, who helped us punch it up as well, is so funny. He really gave Madame Sonam the voice that she had. We really imagined her in this very fabulous way, and he just added these little moments that were so funny, like how Ruby always shuts the laptop and cuts off Sonam and things like that, and how wonderful Simone was to work with, and how collaborative and warm, and she's like the cool aunt to us. Like, we just, as soon as we met her, we wanted to work with her. So yeah, I just think that it takes a village, and that
yeah, I agree. I think mad shout out to Dylan Taylor for sure, because we're the face of this and chat about it, but he really was the third of the tripod for 2 years in development, and and will be moving forward. So it's been great to work with him.
You guys collaborate so well and work so well together. Have you ever thought, or have you been cooking up anything new together, or just kind of dreaming about it?
I mean, I do all the time, but Annie's very busy, and she's been very busy with CFC, so I didn't want to bug her too much. But every once in a while, I would send her a little text like, "Can this be the next thing?"
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think even in our brainstormings for a potential season 2 of Clairevoyant, we've backburnered about 5 other shows in the making that we'd one day love to get to. So, yeah, we're constantly scheming.
Constantly scheming.
Well, speaking of scheming, we're going to open up this panel to audience questions.
Ooh.
So get on up if you have questions for Annie and Natasha. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. I have a question for both of you, I guess.
A little closer.
Oh, closer. Okay. So whenever you were taking your first steps, moving and writing and creating with this, what did you learn that you didn't know before and that you will take with you whenever you continue to create and write new pieces of work?
It's a really wonderful question.
I mean, I would say this is an age-old adage within sort of the writing world, but about killing your babies. I think we firsthand had the experience of countless times, and even towards the end of the writing process, really having to let go of some things that we were both individually, really attached to. But that's part of the process. And then on a personal level, for me, I think even how I work in the context of a group as a creative, there were things that came up for sure that I was like, oh, this is like really good to know about myself. And sometimes I think how, I am read by other people, and that I would for sure take moving forward. And I remember we had a conversation at one point about just how we as a group were communicating, and it was really helpful to sort of, chat through some of that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, what I would like to do better in the future or on a second season is work on my defensiveness when receiving criticism. I think criticism is really important, and I obviously try really hard to listen to fandom input, but then also to understand that you won't be able to please every single person all the time. So to truly do your best to create something that is as inclusive and non-offensive as possible, but to also not allow a few small voices in a sea of thousands of people dictate your entire creative process. Because I think that sometimes I worry so much about being a nice person that it takes away from the work that I do. But also that it's really important to listen to folks who have different experiences from me as well, and that's something I'm definitely getting better at.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, so one of my favorite scenes from the first season was the really emotional scene between Xavier and Ruby. And I was wondering what came into your decision to not give subtitles to what he was saying, because even he was speaking French and her English, and it's still, you could feel the emotion between them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that did come up for debate as to whether we would subtitle, and I think we're all really happy that we ended up and pushed for not doing it. But I think that it would have taken a, we know Xavier as a French-speaking individual, and it was such a key scene for him. So I felt like it would have, honestly, in some sense, sort of undermined or undercut the weight of that. And just seeing these two people, it sort of mirrored the fact that they were having trouble communicating on a really vital aspect of their relationship, and to see them do that through two different languages, to me, sort of reflected exactly what they were going through. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was so beautiful.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks.
I was wondering if we could peek in on whatever Claire and Ruby are doing like this second, what they would be doing.
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. And they're in Vegas right now.
Ruby is coursed Claire into helping her dye her armpit hair neon rainbow colors. And then maybe braid it for a saucy night out.
That's so specific. I feel like you've been thinking about this.
Maybe I have.
And then Claire would be aggressively washing her hands afterwards, not only for the sweat and germs, but because of the chemicals on the dye. I mean, I think she'd be really stressed out about that. But she would do it because she loves Ruby.
I feel like Claire is also packing her like fanny pack full of hand sanitizers for her night out in Vegas.
Oh yeah, truly. But also, I feel like Claire would be a little into gambling, because Ruby has excellent math skills. So together, they would be scheming. Claire would be writing everything down. They would be totally.
Season 2.
What were we thinking? Scrap the other ideas we had. Oh my gosh.
Wait, before your flight, this is how we're going to fund our season 2.
Yes, perfect.
Hit the slots.
Yeah, I think they would be definitely hustling people a little bit.
They call them sharks? Would they be sharks?
They'd be sharks.
Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Do you think they'd
Ruby
stop
would
by
have
ClexaCon? Do you think they'd stop by ClexaCon?
Oh, hell yeah.
Ruby would make Claire go to ClexaCon, I think, because if Claire wasn't with Nico, she'd be like, go, meet the ladies. And Claire would be like, crowds, no, not my thing. People, no, it's too much. Yeah, I think that would be the case. Great question. Now we're just going to talk for another 45 minutes. We're like, and then they'd be doing this. Ruby would make Claire wear a really short sequin dress as well, and Claire would be so uncomfortable. And
hi. Hello. The comedy in this is just fantastic, and you guys do the physical aspects of the comedy so well.
Oh, I thank you. Go on.
So, going off of that, in real life, would you rather mistakenly eat an edible and then go on a date, or eat dumpster food and have the horrifying aftermath?
What a choice.
These are all great questions, by the way.
Yeah. You guys are killing it. Well, I don't know about you, but for me, I would much rather shit my pants in the safety of my own home than I would be high in public.
That is hard to follow.
As someone who has both shit their pants in the safety of their own home and accidentally gotten high in public, I will definitely take the poop, although, yes. In fact, she has not been high. Why am I talking in third person now? This lady. Wait, it's happening. It's happening. What was in that tea? No, ever since that moment, I have not been high in many, many years. And I feel comfortable saying this because it's legal in Canada.
Here too.
In Vegas, well, I don't know your laws. Name our prime minister. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you.
Ugh, damn it.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor of Toronto, go.
No,
kidding.
Thank you. Hello. So I was wondering, what did and did not work in terms of making a name for yourself in the acting industry, and I guess more specifically to this show?
Ooh.
I don't know. Have we made names for ourselves? I would say something I'm continuing to. It's an ongoing struggle, but I do believe it firmly is that what does not work is trying to stuff yourself into some other idea of what is sellable or marketable, if it is not true to sort of who you are and what you stand for. I think it's for me anyway, I notice it contributes to unhappiness mentally, and it doesn't actually manifest in any sort of fruitful, enjoyable work. So, yeah.
Yeah, and to tie it into Clairvoyant, I think what was important to me was to write a character that is somewhat based on me and very different from Carmilla. I am actually quite similar to both characters, and yet both characters are very different from each other. And that was something that was important to me to convey, because it would have been very easy for me to have leaned into the kind of cool, broody aspect of Carmilla and then only try to play roles like that and only try to brand and market myself like that. But that's only one facet of me as a complex person, and comedy makes me really happy as well. So I was really happy to have had the opportunity to show different skills and to show a different side of me, and both are authentic. And just as Annie said, I think obviously it's our job to play characters and to sink into the skin of different characters and to wear that and play people who are different from us. But I think so often we are also asked to play characters on red carpets or on panels in our day-to-day lives, and it's so important to stick to what your core values are.
I also think with the creation of the show, it was really important for us. I mean, we spent a lot of time in development working on the show, so just working with a core idea of something that we were genuinely really passionate about and amused by and entertained by, and some themes that we wanted to explore that meant something to us, right? So we weren't just searching externally for what was, being sold or bought out there in the world.
Yeah,
but if you're going to
exactly.
spend that amount of time with an idea, like you should probably really like it.
It's so true, because I think it's really easy to see something that's marketable and see something that is selling and try to jump on that sort of bandwagon. And we had other pitches for ideas that were interesting. Pitches and shows, but the one that got selected was Clairvoyant because it was so near and dear to our hearts. And at first we thought, gosh, will anyone think this is funny other than us? It's so bizarre and absurd. But I think because it was so real, people shocked us and people seemed to enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great questions. I love them all. Keep them coming.
Thank you. So which out of all the many different props and fun little things that you guys had on the show would be your favorite, like from the dumpster food aftermath to the pot brownies to the crystal balls?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. You see it for a hot second when they're looking for tools to smack the crystal ball with. But Ruby has a really fantastic instrument she uses and finds in the couch cushions to smack the crystal ball with. And I was quite excited to learn, because we had the same prop person, that it came from a wonderful Canadian sketch show called Baroness von Sketch Show. So, and they're very talented, funny women. Oh, and one of the members of Baroness von Sketch was actually in Ruth as well. So when I met them last year at the Canadian Screen Awards, because they were next to me in the makeup room, I think the first thing I yelled was, "Oh my gosh, we used the same dildo prop!"
I think it's named Bob or something.
It was named?
Oh, it's named.
Oh, who named it?
They did.
Oh, okay.
And Annie, how about yourself?
Oh, I mean, that was for sure. That was absolutely my favorite too. But second up, I don't know. Honestly, I'd have to go with the crystal ball. It was so cool.
Pretty cool.
And I for sure thought that we were gonna get some like makeshift
styrofoam ball with glitter on it,
ball, or like like a fish bowl that they just like try to turn into something. But it was like a legit, very beautiful, heavy, piece. And it was. I mean, even holding it, I was nervous all the time that I was gonna break it.
Terrified to touch it, and it was controlled by somebody's iPhone.
Yeah, it had like a remote control.
It's wild.
Like, you know, yeah.
Shout out to our crew. I don't know how they did that, but they were great.
Cool. Thank you.
Short person. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
My question is, how is it different to be directed on something you wrote as opposed to being directed with other people's language?
Well, I think, yeah, that was a really interesting process to go through with Simone. I will say, first up, because she knew that we'd written it, and she came into the creative process early enough on that she'd had quite a bit of time with the scripts, and we were able to work with her for a bit. But she was really good about, you know, allowing us to. She might have questions or suggestions, but sort of letting us really find and have the final say on sort of those character decisions and questions, because we were the closest to them. But then also as an actor, I think, because as Nat said before, making entertainment and making movies and shows it's a process that involves so many different people, and we employed people that we were really stoked about their creative backgrounds and trusting in that at a certain point you have to give over to somebody else's idea. And so I think it was half and half, and we navigated it really well, I felt.
It was a beautiful dance. Like, there was a lot of give and take, I would say, and certainly compared to other shows that we're just actors on, we certainly had much more input, but we certainly allowed Simone to put her own spin on things as well. Like, at one point there was a fishbowl we were supposed to vomit into, and it didn't make it in, but yeah, she was really, really keen on having this fishbowl, and I was like, yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. Awesome.
Hi, I was wondering, both Carmilla and Clairevoyant have like a supernatural world going on, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that they exist in the same universe. And I was wondering if your dual characters interacted at all or came into contact, how they would interact with each other.
I always feel like such a buzzkill when I answer similar questions to this, because we really do not feel that they're in the same universe.
No.
I mean,
but I will say, if
we
it was
imagined
another universe, and you pulled, you know,
like a
Ruby,
third universe,
third universe, and Ruby and Perry, for instance, you know, ended up at a speed dating session or something. I firmly believe that Ruby would be having none of Perry.
Oh, well, Claire has like a relatively similar personality to Laura in some ways, like, and they're sort of so, yeah. And I feel like Carmilla is like wild and semi-narcissistic enough that she'd be down to like date someone that looked like her.
Okay.
She'd try it once at least, maybe.
Maybe a little bit too much information, but thank you.
Oh God, it's happening! It's happening.
Hey, so along with Ruby and Claire, I actually really love your supporting cast members, and I wanted to know a little bit about how you casted Xavier and Nico, and like what qualities the actors definitely had to have, what was available to you, and why you chose the actors you ultimately chose.
Great question.
Wonderful question. For Xavier, it was really important that we had someone who was great with physical comedy, and who was willing to improvise physical acts, because so often we wanted him to sort of be in every scene, and he's always sort of lounging about with Ruby or doing some sort of craft. And one thing that was very exciting about Jason is that he was the only actor. He came in with props. He came in with like a little bun, because it was in the script, and oven mitts. And he's like a really artsy dude in real life who wears eyeliner and stuff. stuff. So when he came in, we were like, ooh, who is this strange man with the oven mitts? I love it. And it was just so wonderfully weird that we felt like he would be a good fit for our weirdness. And part of the casting process as well, actually, is we wrote character descriptions and breakdowns, and we sent them to a casting director. That casting director then chose a pool of actors for us. We were not part of the initial audition process. We just allowed the producers, executive producer, and director to be in that room. They had requested that, and we said, fair enough, let's hand it over to Simone, the director. So then we watched her favorite tapes of auditions. So she told us her favorites. We watched all of those tapes, and then from then, it was quite a process. Annie and I had a long phone call. We chose our favorites, brought them in for a callback to see our chemistry with them. It really, truly is quite a process. And there weren't a ton of people. I mean, not everyone's keen to work on a web series budget, so, you know, we didn't have like a pool of 200 people to choose from, but we were really pleased with the people who did come in. Even with Sabrin, she immediately had such a great presence about her and a great warmth, but also she was really cool. She was like kind of cool and tough and really good at improvising, which was really important to me, and we had a really good improv kind of rapport, and I love that we were able to play like that. And I also wanted someone who is also like of a body type that you don't always see on camera, and someone who would have been intimidating to Ruby. There were so many wonderful actresses who came in who were super, super cute, and I think Claire totally would have had a crush on, but, you know, Ruby would have been like
eaten them.
Yeah, she would have eaten them.
Yeah, and I think another thing for Natasha and I that was super important in the casting process is, you know, because we were involved in the creation of those characters and had been close to them for so long, and Simone helped with this, was sort of allowing somebody else to bring their own take on that character to the whole process, and so keeping a really open mind, because I think in different ways both Jason and Sabrin really came in with things that we weren't expecting for those characters, and they surprised us in good ways, but it took the characters, you know, in slightly different directions than maybe we had initially anticipated, which is, yeah, it's the exciting part of that process.
Even Tova as well, like she came in with, I mean, she was pretty close to what we had thought, but she came in with a lot of her own ideas as well, and this really like,
she scared us both, so
yeah,
we hired her immediately.
Yeah. It is true. She is a very grand woman with this like fabulous alto voice, and she's very tall in real life. And we were like, yes, this is excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey guys, if you're anything like me, creativity doesn't just, you know, it doesn't just happen. You can't just sit down and be creative, and it kind of appears in all sorts of different times and places. But on the other hand, if you want to actually produce something, you have to give it time and sit down and be in the moment. So how do you prepare with all the distractions of today's life to actually, are there any exercises or rituals that you have particularly to prepare to sit down and say, right, today I'm going to do this?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I'm a very ritualized individual in that way. So I feel, although this changes from project to project, writing, for instance, what really helps me is if I'm writing Clairevoyant season 2, let's say, I'll set up the space with which I'm going to write that show, and it probably, for the most part, won't change. So season 1 was done in the apartment I lived in at the time, and it was the kitchen, and I pretty much wrote the whole show from that kitchen. And Ruth was done in a very particular cafe, and you know, for me, it's habituated that way. And then my surroundings, I don't know, it just sort of vibes me that way, I guess. And then in terms of like creative energies, yeah, there are days where I'm like, just shit out of luck. It's just not happening, and I try to just let it go and not let that, you know, get me down too much. But one thing I did start paying attention to, I would say like in the last year and a half, is my menstrual cycle influences my creative flow, if you will, so heavily. In a really particular way, depending on where I am in my cycle. It's like I'm either just, it's all, the muses are moving,
the
or
muses
they're
give
like
you
not
wings.
showing up.
What?
Repeat it. What?
We didn't hear it.
I missed the joke.
We missed
That
it.
the muses give you wings.
Oh my God.
They filleth my cup, so to speak. Diva Cup, sponsor me.
What a plug.
10 out of 10. And thank you.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
I'm so fascinated by this. When do you feel more creative in the cycle? When is it more creative?
Oh, it's the most. It's the most of my third week.
So when you're very fertile?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's
Fertile
fascinating.
myrtle. Yes. Becomes, yeah.
And then you're creatively, that's interesting. Very cool. I think it's cool that you noticed that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think also just spending time together in a capacity where, like, I think when we actually go to write, both Annie and I, like, need to have a space where we're like, okay, now we're writing and we're off on our own, we're going to write this stuff. But in terms of the brainstorming, it's really important for us to just, like, hang out, and we're constantly doing it. It's not like we set a time and say, okay, now is the time we're going to be brainstorming. It's like every time we're together, it's like, oh, what about this idea? What about this? And it kind of stems from actually just hanging out in comfortable environments and enjoying each other's company. And I think that's what makes Ruby and Claire's chemistry so authentic as well, is because it sincerely came from and was inspired by moments of us just hanging out as friends.
Cool, thank you.
You're so welcome. Sorry. I'm just so fascinated by it.
Probably, for sure. All right. Hi. My question was, I guess it's kind of a fun question. Do you think that your characters and yourselves have similar music taste, and would you be able to survive in a long car trip, just you and your character, without killing each other?
I'm blown away by the creativity in this room. It's so awesome. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. I'd go on a road trip with Rubes. Absolutely. She'd have to drive, though. I don't drive. But yeah, I think she and I have similar taste in music, I would imagine, for sure. 70s rock?
Jungle music? For certain times.
For certain times.
Oh, yeah, I think Claire and I would have similar taste in music. In terms of the more contemporary stuff I think Claire likes a lot of, like, female singer-songwriter, sad little ditties. I don't think we would be great on a road trip together because we would be too similar in our over-planning. But we'd be really safe because we both travel with first aid kits.
Thank you.
Short people problems. Okay. Hi. My question is, you all have been actors, producers, writers. Have you ever thought about even directing, like even an episode of Clairvoyant, and get the opportunity, or even in the future maybe, to do other shows or movies?
Well, Annie's quite the director.
I wouldn't say I'm quite the director. I have had the experience.
I think you're a great director.
Well, thank you, Natasha. That's lovely. Yeah, I have had the experience of directing before and really enjoyed it. I certainly, for something the size and the pace at which we do have to shoot Clairvoyant, wouldn't want to direct that and have to be in it as well. And I think just because, as we've said, we are so involved in the creative process, that it's good to have another perspective and somebody else sort of captaineering that. So I wouldn't choose to on Clairvoyant. In terms of the future and other projects, yeah, I am keen to explore that area, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I think my strengths lie in producing, and I think show running and executive producing. I have more of the sort of marketing pitch sort of brain, and certainly like am the generally the one passing on notes from the public and the fandom. I don't know that I'm technically skilled or visual enough to be a great director. I haven't really had an interest in doing that for film, but I certainly have interest in directing stage productions like cabarets or musicals or a play. I'd love to try that someday because I'd love to work with actors. But I think for now, and leave the directing to other people. And then especially for Clairevoyant, I think we just have so many hats, and as much as I love hats, we'll leave the directing to Simone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi again. This is an easier question, I guess. Do you have any favorite lines or bits of dialogue? My favorite is when Claire's having her accidental trip, and she says, "I can't feel my sweet double D's anymore."
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good line. I remember we went through different iterations of that line as well. Like she was like, "My boobs, where are my boobs? I'm not part of the itty bitty committee anymore." But I don't know, we went through different references. Oh, that was a good one though. A lot of people seem quite fond of the "Did you get me an alpaca" line when Claire is having her trip. And I've received many alpacas since then, which is interesting. I have a little collection going. I did like that line as well. I also love when Madame Sonam says, #sorry, not sorry.
I feel like all my favorite lines were Madame Sonam's.
Yes.
Our dialogue.
So many. And Tova had improvised a couple where she was like, "When the moon reaches Jupiter," and like just said some really bizarre things that we were like, yes, this is great. I love it. And also Baba's lines. Gosh, so many lines. I also it's funny because we wrote many of our own lines, so I'm like, yeah, I loved all of them. They were great.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. I feel like I haven't been giving this side of the room love. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, yes.
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to take an opportunity to say hi because I flew in from Costa Rica to come see you guys. So.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. So. Hi. And I wanted to see if, I know you guys might get in trouble, but I wanted to see if I could take a selfie from here. No?
Oh,
okay. No, it's fine.
Thank you so much for traveling, though.
No, it's fine.
It's amazing that you're here.
And it's awesome that you are sitting in this panel and watch the show. It's awesome that all of you are.
Speaking of that, before we say au revoir, you have done a lot of conventions now. What have you?
So many.
Annie, is this your second one?
Yeah, second ClexaCon, yes.
But you've done New York Comic Con. You've done
Not Annie.
No.
Sucker. No, I'm just kidding. Oh my gosh, guys.
Okay,
we love each other.
Here we go. Fan events. You've done a lot of fan events. What have you taken away from that? Because that must be such an incredible experience as an actor to really just get involved directly with your fan base.
It is so overwhelming, and my heart truly, as Natasha said, by the end of a weekend like this, I'm just swollen. I feel swollen with emotion, the good kind of emotion. So it feels like such a privilege to be here. It really does, and to meet you and to hear your stories. And I think what I take away from it is really it continues to feed my drive and bolster me to make more work, and to make more work authentically to what I want to see, because here I find that what I want to see is also what other people want to see, and I'm not alone. So in that, so yeah, it's really special.
Well, I was going to wear different boots today, and my feet are so swollen. I'm literally swollen with emotion that I couldn't get them on. Gosh, yeah. I never take these experiences for granted. And they never get old. Like, I think it's easy to take them for granted sometimes when when I'm alone in my house online and I just see numbers and it's like, oh yeah, cool, I'm going to convention. But then as soon as I'm here, I'm like, wow, this is a really, really special honor and privilege, as Annie said. And I was so moved and touched by the amount of people who, and all of you that I got a chance to meet, and how you shared your positive feedback on Clairevoyant, especially because Carmilla is very near and dear to my heart, but it's a really special experience when people enjoy something that came from you and your soul and your own words. So I was just so moved by everything you had to say, and so often I hear things about how the work that I do has saved lives or have helped people through dark times, and I don't think people realize how much you all fuel me and have helped me, because I also struggle with dark times, and when I do, I'm able to remember that there are people who are willing to listen, and I hope that you all know that we reciprocate that.
Well, thank you, both of you, for being here. Thank you for sharing your kindness and your talent with us. And thank you to all of you who have been here all weekend or even just a day. And I know everyone's going to be getting on planes and trains and automobiles and heading out of town, but this is an incredibly special experience every time. So bless you, ClexaCon, and bless you guys.
And thank you, Dana.
Thank you, Fairy Gay Mother.